Welcome to the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. My name is Andrew Ivins. We got some big news in the world of college football recruiting. One of the nation's top defensive linemen, Kelby Collins from Gardendale High School in Alabama. He's going to make his college commitment here on 24/7 Sports just momentarily. Kelby Collins down to 3 schools, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. This is a guy that had 81 tackles as a junior, 16 sacks, 21 tackles for loss. Tons of schools wanted him around the country, and we're going to bring that man in right now. Who you got with us today at the ceremony? Who up there is on stage?
To my far left, I have my head coach, Coach E, and I have my mom right here, my dad, and my little brother Drew right here.
Well, Kelby, let's just start. You know, you're a guy who, as a freshman, played on varsity. You picked up your first scholarship offer back in 2019 from UAB. It's been a whirlwind since then. What has the recruiting process been like for you as you've had to take all these visits and explore all these schools?
It's been crazy since my first offer back in 2019 to UAB. It just started picking up from there, and it's been crazy. It's been fun, but I've enjoyed every moment of the experience.
You took 3 official visits back in June. You also visited some places in July. You know, how did you get down to these 3 schools, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia? What stood out about them besides the fact that they are in the SEC?
Well, first, they're in the SEC. I feel like that's the best conference that you can play in. Every time I went to each one of those schools, I just connected with the coaches, the players, and some of the recruits that had already committed. So that's what I ended up going down to those 3 schools.
Well, let's start real quick at Florida. Billy Napier, new look staff there. What do you like about the Gators?
What I like about the Gators is I like the energy they bring. They bring great energy each and every day. Everybody of the coaching staff brings the same energy. They have the same goal in mind, is to get back to what the Gators used to be. With Coach Napier, he's a very organized coach, and he knows what he wants, and he's laid back, kind of chill like me. But when he gets on that field, he's going to turn it up, and he wants you to get better. He wants the best out of you every day.
Alabama, that's the school in state. Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. I always say the kids say Bama's Bama. What do you like about Alabama?
What I like about Bama, it's a hometown team. I grew up an Alabama fan, and possibly playing for the greatest head coach of all time and one of the greatest programs. Playing with Coach Roach, he has a history of putting guys in the league, and as a program as a whole, they have a great history of putting guys in the league. So that really stands out to me.
And then the finalist, Georgia, they just won a national title. 15 guys selected in the NFL draft, a ton of those guys on the defensive side of the ball. What stands out about the folks there in Athens?
Really, Coach Scott, he's really why they're a top pick for me. I've learned a lot from him, not just on the field, but how to carry myself. Coach Smart, he's a defensive-minded coach, and I feel like he's proven that in the last couple of years. They just won a national championship, and they put 15 guys in the league, most of them are defensive players, so that really speaks volume.
Well, Kelby, I know this is a huge moment for you. I know it's a huge moment for everyone in that room and the people next to you. I want to give you plenty of time, so the floor is yours.
Well, first I have a little thank you note. So first, I want to thank the Lord for blessing me with this talent to be able to do the things that I do. Also, I want to thank my mom, my dad, and Drew for loving me and becoming and believing in me through this whole journey and taking the time out to drive and spend time with me on these visits. I want to thank all the coaches for recruiting me in these last couple of years. From the first coach that called to the last, I appreciate the conversations and the lessons that you've taught me. It's helped me grow as a man and a person. I want to thank my teammates for pushing me. Without y'all, this wouldn't be possible. From the DBs all the way down to the kicker, thank y'all for making my job easier on the field and for letting me lead y'all into a battle every Friday night. I want to thank Coach Eads and Coach Firestone for taking a chance on the skinny freshman back in 9th grade. Thank y'all for letting me lead the team and the defense. I'm looking forward to what we can accomplish this year. I want to thank my uncle for supporting me since Little League and pushing me every step of the way and wanting nothing but the best for me. And for my grandma and her prayer group for praying over me every day.
Where are you going to be spending the next couple of years? And there you have it, Florida for Kelby Collins. Big pickup for Billy Napier in the Gators. I was at Friday Night Lights a few weeks ago. Kelby Collins is walking around, and kind of the buzz at that event was the Gators wanted to revamp that defensive line. And you looked on the sidelines, looked around campus, and all you saw was big defensive linemen like Kelby Collins. Collins had also visited South Carolina. Alabama was in there. Georgia, obviously, as well. Kelby Collins joined a defensive line class, includes TJ Searcy, Isaiah Nixon, Gavin Hill, and now Florida up to number 12 in the rankings. They leapfrog USC, and there's potential for the Gators to get some more good news. Joining me right now is going to be my good colleague, Cooper Patagna. Thoughts on this commitment, Kelby Collins?
All right, so let me get into this. Top 247 defensive lineman, Kelby Collins, only an hour away from Tuscaloosa. You mentioned Alabama, Georgia, all in there for him. He was a huge need and a huge priority for the University of Florida. So defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator Sean Spencer getting it done. But, this is a guy 6'5", 280, can play in multiple fronts, plays in a 3-4 right now. And you mentioned Florida plays in a similar type of 3-down front already. So plays more in a 4-eye, can play the 5 technique as well. He's super multiple, 6'5", 280 pounds, probably going to play north of 300 pounds at the next level. But he's a dog. You talked about the double-digit sack count that he had, and he's linear explosive, but he also plays with a lot of range. So this is a big one for Florida. I don't think they're going to be done here in the next couple of weeks. We've talked a lot about top 247 defensive lineman Cameron James as well. So give it up to Florida, man. This was a huge position in need. They needed to get this one done, and to go into Alabama to get a guy that Alabama wanted and Nick Saban wanted, that's a huge deal.
Real quick, let's just talk about that front seven Florida's trying to build. Someone in Gainesville told me they want it to look like what Alabama does, what Georgia does up front. Obviously, those are two good teams to model your gameplay after, given what they've done recently. But I think Kelby Collins, you mentioned 4-eye. I think he's a guy that could potentially stand up as an edge in certain situations if you needed to. And then maybe he could kick inside and play some snaps as a 0 or 1 technique. I mean, when I saw him, he's 280 pounds, but he doesn't look 280, and that's a good thing. So he's only going to get more powerful, more explosive in that strength program. Do you have a player comp for him, or is this just kind of a unique guy you still got to see a little bit more of?
Yeah, I don't know if I do. I mean, for me, dating back to my days at Alabama in 2014, this was the type of guy that we always identified and was a priority for us. You talked about the multiplicity, the positional value, the flexibility that comes with players like these. I think that's what Florida is trying to do up front. And you look at the guys already that they have in the boat: Isaiah Nixon from the state of Florida, Gavin Hill, TJ Searcy. 2 of the last 3 of the guys that I mentioned are top 247 defenders. So they're getting guys with that can do a lot of different things, that are multiple, that they can move around. And I think for Kelby Collins, I mean, this guy is disruptive, one of the top players on the board. And, I know me and you talked about it. I think this is a guy at the end of the day, he's probably going to have a good chance to kind of creep up into the top 100 range.
You mentioned Cameron James. He's going to announce a commitment Sunday afternoon. That's another Florida-Georgia battle. And you also put him in the same sentence as Kelby in terms of a potential rankings riser at some point down the line. Real quickly, why don't you just give any Florida fans listening your initial takeaways on Cameron James, because I know I've long been a fan of him.
Yeah, 6'6", 250 pounds, a guy that plays at Olympia High School in Florida, and a guy that bends extremely well. I think his arrow is pointing up. He's a developmental upside guy. But a lot that we like about Kelby Collins is the same thing that we like with Cameron James. I think ultimately a guy that can play on the outside, but at the next level has the versatility to play inside. So I like Cameron James. I like Kelby Collins. And if you're SEC defensive line coach, both of these guys were sought out by Georgia, Alabama, and others. So if Florida can reel in, now they got one of the two in Kelby Collins. If they can get Cameron James, it's one of the best defensive line hauls in the country.
Florida up to number 12 in the 24/7 Sports Composite Team rankings. They leapfrog USC with this move. Cameron James would move them up to, I think, number 10 in the rankings if they're able to pull that off. And if you're Billy Napier, man, you got to feel good about where you are in recruiting. Remember, everyone was raising the flag, what's going on back in early June. Now he's going to head into that week 1 game against Utah with potentially a top 10 class. Kudos to him. Nice pickup for the Gators. Excited to see his senior season there at Gardendale. Cooper, we'll see you later. Thanks. Take care, guys.
All right, man. Thank you.